The defendant rose from his chair with theatrical precision, clutching a stack of laminated cards and printed documents that would have made a conspiracy theorist proud. "Your Honor," Marcus DeVoe announced, his voice dripping with rehearsed confidence, "I do not recognize the jurisdiction of this court." Judge Frank Caprio looked up from his bench, his reading glasses perched on his nose, his expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. In his decades on the bench in Providence, Rhode Island, he'd become something of a local legend, known for his compassion, his wisdom, and his ability to see through any attempt to manipulate the system. But what he didn't know yet was that this Tuesday morning would become one of the most talked-about moments of his distinguished career. I'm Adam Broderick, and I've been covering courts for the Providence Journal for 15 years. I've watched Judge Caprio handle thousands of cases with grace, humor, and an unmistakable sense of justice. But nothing prepared me for what was about to unfold in his courtroom that morning. The case seemed straightforward on paper. Marcus DeVoe, a 42-year-old former IT consultant from Cranston, was facing charges for driving without a license, expired registration, and multiple failures to appear. Standard traffic violations that would normally result in fines and maybe community service. But Marcus had spent 6 months diving deep into sovereign citizen ideology, convinced he'd discovered the ultimate legal loophole. "Mr. DeVoe," Judge Caprio said gently, his Rhode Island accent evident, "please sit down so we can talk about your case." "I am not Mr. DeVoe," Marcus declared, holding up one of his laminated cards. "That is a corporate fiction created by the government. I am Marcus of the family DeVoe, a free man on the land traveling under natural law." Judge Caprio leaned back in his chair, removing his glasses slowly. Anyone who knew the judge recognized this gesture. He was about to deliver one of his trademark moments of clarity. The courtroom, which had about 30 people waiting for their own cases, went completely silent. "Son," Judge Caprio said, his voice warm but firm, "I've been doing this for a long time, a very long time, and I've heard a lot of things in this courtroom. But let me ask you something. Where did you learn all this?" Marcus's confidence wavered slightly at the unexpected gentleness. I took a course, Your Honor, online. It explained how the legal system really works and how I have rights that—" "How much did this course cost you?" Judge Caprio interrupted, leaning forward with genuine concern in his eyes. $250, but it was worth it because—" "Stop right there." The judge held up his hand. "Marcus, you've been scammed, and I'm not talking about a small scam. I'm talking about people who make a living taking money from folks who are struggling, who are frustrated with the system, who want to believe there's a magic solution to their problems." The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Catherine Walsh, watched silently. She'd been in Judge Caprio's courtroom long enough to know when to stay quiet and let him work. "Your Honor, with respect," Marcus said, pulling out another document. "I have a UCC financing statement here that establishes me as a secured party creditor, and according to Admiralty law—" "Marcus. Judge Caprio shook his head sadly. "Let me tell you something. I've been a judge for over 30 years. Before that, I was a lawyer. I went to law school. I studied constitutional law, criminal law, civil procedure, all of it. And you know what? Not once, in all those years of education and experience, did anyone teach me about this Admiralty law nonsense you're talking about." He gestured to the prosecutor. "Ms. Walsh went to law school. She didn't learn it either." He pointed to the public defender. "Ms. Patterson, she went to law school. She didn't learn it. You know why? Because it's not real. It's made up. It's fantasy." Marcus's face began to redden. "But the Constitution says—" "I know what the Constitution says," Judge Caprio said, his voice taking on a sterner edge. "I've been applying it in this courtroom for 3 decades. And it doesn't say anything about you being able to drive without a license or ignore traffic laws because you do not recognize jurisdiction." The judge opened the case file in front of him. "Let me read you something, Marcus. On June 14th, you were driving, and yes, I said driving, not traveling. You were driving 55 miles per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour zone, a school zone. Do you know why we have speed limits in school zones?" Marcus remained silent. "Because children are there," Judge Caprio continued, his voice heavy with emotion. "Little kids, 6 years old, 7 years old, walking to school. And if someone is going 55 miles per hour and a child runs into the street, that driver doesn't have time to stop. That child could die." The courtroom was absolutely still. This was Judge Caprio at his most powerful, not yelling, not threatening, but speaking truth with undeniable moral weight. "Now you want to stand in my courtroom and tell me that you don't recognize my jurisdiction? That traffic laws don't apply to you because you're a free man on the land? What about those children's right to be safe? What about their parents' right to send their kids to school without worrying that someone like you thinks the rules don't apply to them?" Marcus's hands were shaking now. The laminated cards suddenly looked very foolish. "And then," Judge Caprio went on, "you didn't show up to court. Not once, but 3 times. You sent us these—" He held up a stack of papers. "These ridiculous documents. 20 pages of gibberish. Words that sound legal but mean nothing. You build this court that serves the people of Rhode Island, $1 million for trespass against your sovereignty." A few nervous laughs rippled through the gallery. Judge Caprio didn't smile. "Do you know what happens when you don't show up to court, Marcus? The police have to spend time tracking you down. The prosecutor has to prepare for a case that doesn't happen. This courtroom, which could be helping other people with real problems, sits empty during your scheduled time. You're not exercising your rights, you're wasting everyone's time and taxpayer money." Marcus looked down at his shoes. "I didn't think of it that way, Your Honor." "Of course you didn't. Because the people who sold you that course didn't tell you any of this. They didn't tell you that these arguments have failed in every single court in America. They didn't tell you that judges can hold you in contempt. They didn't tell you that this could make your situation much, much worse." Judge Caprio's expression softened slightly. "Marcus, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're someone who got desperate, who got frustrated, and who got taken advantage of by con artists. These sovereign citizen gurus, they prey on people. They sell them a dream that sounds too good to be true because it is too good to be true." He paused, looking directly into Marcus's eyes. "Now, I'm going to give you a choice, and I want you to really think about this choice, because it's going to determine what happens to your life in the next few months." The courtroom leaned forward collectively. "You can keep going with this sovereign citizen stuff. You can keep telling me you don't recognize my jurisdiction. And if you do that, I will hold you in contempt of court right now. You'll go to jail today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. And when you eventually go to trial, you will lose. I guarantee it. These arguments have never worked, and they never will." Judge Caprio let that sink in before continuing. "Or you can stop this nonsense right now. You can admit that you made a mistake, that you broke the law, and that you're ready to face the consequences like a responsible adult. You can work with Ms. Patterson here, who's a very good public defender. You can enter a plea, and we can talk about a punishment that's fair. Probably a fine, maybe some community service, a license suspension, nothing that will ruin your life." He leaned forward, his voice taking on an almost fatherly tone. "Marcus, I've seen a lot of people come through this courtroom. I've seen people make bad choices and good choices. Right now, you're at a crossroads. You can choose to keep living in this fantasy world where magic words will save you, or you can choose to live in reality, deal with your problems, and move forward. What's it going to be?" The silence in the courtroom was deafening. I watched Marcus's face as the weight of the moment settled on him. His carefully constructed worldview was crumbling in real time. Finally, Marcus set his stack of papers down on the table. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. "I'd like to speak with the public defender, Your Honor." Judge Caprio nodded slowly, a look of relief crossing his face. "Good choice, son. Good choice. Bailiff, please take Mr. DeVoe to meet with Ms. Patterson. We'll reconvene in 20 minutes. As Marcus was led out of the courtroom, I noticed several other defendants quietly tucking away their own suspicious-looking documents. Apparently, Judge Caprio had just prevented multiple sovereign citizen attempts that morning. When court resumed, Marcus entered a guilty plea to all charges. Judge Caprio, true to his reputation for fairness, imposed a reasonable sentence, a $1,500 fine, a 1-year license suspension, 40 hours of community service at a local elementary school helping with traffic safety, and mandatory attendance at a driver education course. But then Judge Caprio did something unexpected. He added one more requirement. "Marcus, I'm also ordering you to write an essay. 500 words. I want you to research the sovereign citizen movement. Really research it, not just the propaganda sites. I want you to look at how many people have gone to jail because of these beliefs, how many have lost their children in custody battles, how many have had their property seized, how many have even been killed in confrontations with law enforcement because they believed this nonsense would protect them." Marcus nodded solemnly. "And then," Judge Caprio continued, "I want you to write about why you fell for it. What made you vulnerable to this scam? What were you hoping to achieve? And what would you say to someone else who's thinking about going down this path?" "Yes, Your Honor. I understand." Judge Caprio's expression softened one final time. "Marcus, you seem like a smart guy. You worked in IT, you had a career. Don't throw your life away on conspiracy theories and legal fantasy. The real world has real problems, but it also has real solutions. Work with the system, not against it. You'll be surprised how much better that works out." "Thank you, Your Honor, really, thank you." As the next case was called, I reflected on what I'd just witnessed. Judge Frank Caprio had done something remarkable. He'd taken someone who was heading towards serious legal jeopardy and potentially violent confrontation with the system, and he'd pulled them back from the edge. Not with anger or intimidation, but with wisdom, patience, and undeniable truth. Later that afternoon, I caught up with Judge Caprio in his chambers for a brief comment. "Judge, that was quite a moment in there. How often do you see sovereign citizen cases?" He sighed, loosening his robe. "More and more, unfortunately. It's sad, really. These are people who feel powerless, who feel like the system isn't working for them. And in some cases, they're not entirely wrong. The system can be complicated, frustrating, expensive. But the answer isn't to retreat into fantasy. The answer is to work together to make things better." "Do you think Marcus will actually turn things around?" "I hope so," Judge Caprio said. "I really do. He made a bad choice, but he didn't double down on it. That shows character. That shows he can learn. And that's all I can ask for. That people learn from their mistakes and do better." The video of the exchange recorded by the court's official camera system was later posted to the court's public YouTube channel, where Judge Caprio's cases had already gained millions of views from people around the world who appreciated his approach to justice. This particular video went viral, racking up views and comments from people who'd been considering the sovereign citizen path themselves. "Judge Caprio just saved me from making a huge mistake," one comment read. "I was about to buy one of those courses. Not anymore." Another said, "This is what a real judge looks like. Firm, but fair. Wise, but kind. We need more like him." Marcus himself posted on a legal advice forum a week later, writing, "I was in Judge Caprio's courtroom last week. I went in thinking I was smarter than everyone else, that I'd found a secret loophole. The judge could have destroyed me. He could have thrown the book at me. Instead, he treated me like a human being who'd made a mistake, and he gave me a chance to make it right. If you're reading this and thinking about becoming a sovereign citizen, please don't. It's a scam, and Judge Caprio helped me see that before I ruined my life." 6 months later, I followed up on Marcus's case. He'd completed all his requirements, including the essay, which Judge Caprio had him present to a community group as part of his sentence. Marcus had gotten his license reinstated and returned to work. More than that, he'd become active in online forums warning others about sovereign citizen scams. Judge Caprio didn't just sentence me, Marcus told me when I interviewed him. He saved me. I was going down a path that would have destroyed everything: my career, my relationships, maybe even my freedom. He could have just thrown me in jail and washed his hands of me. Instead, he took the time to explain why I was wrong. He treated me with respect, even when I didn't deserve it. That's something I'll never forget. As for Judge Caprio, he continued doing what he'd done for decades, dispensing justice with wisdom, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to truth. In a legal system that can sometimes feel cold and impersonal, he remained a beacon of humanity. The sovereign citizen movement continues, unfortunately. People are still being scammed, still buying into the fantasy that magic words and pseudo-legal documents can exempt them from the law. But in Providence, Rhode Island, in Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, at least one person learned the truth before it was too late. And sometimes, in the American justice system, that's what counts as a victory. Not just punishing wrongdoing, but preventing future harm, educating the misinformed, and giving people a second chance to do the right thing. Judge Caprio understood something that Marcus DeVoe learned the hard way. There are no shortcuts in life, no magic words that exempt us from responsibility, no secret loopholes that let us live without consequences. There's only the law, applied fairly and humanely, and the choice each of us makes to either work within society or stand outside it alone. Marcus made the right choice that day. Thanks to Judge Frank Caprio, he got the chance to make it.